A violent and brutal crime. It was not some Robin Hood effort.
The brutal murder of a young Catholic father, Robert McCartney, by IRA members saw the nationalist community close ranks around his killers. Police complained of a wall of silence. Both crimes attracted international headlines and remain unsolved. While the PSNI is more acceptable to more of the community, certain areas can still erupt in coordinated public disorder, and this remains a part of the UK where officers have to check under their cars for bombs.
The security situation at the moment has deteriorated rapidly, especially in the last 2 years, and we're extremely concerned about that. And in fairness to Sir Hugh Orde, he has said on several occasions that the situation now is worse than at any time since he became Chief Constable, and he has pitched the current security threat at severe.
In March, 2 soldiers were shot dead by the real IRA outside barracks at Mazarine. This time the response was united, with Sinn Féin's Martin McGuinness condemning the attack in unequivocal terms.
They are traitors to the island of Ireland. They have betrayed the political desires, hopes and aspirations of all of the people who live on this island.
Within 2 days, dissidents struck again, and Stephen Carroll became the first PSNI officer killed by terrorists, a loss the departing Chief Constable describes as his deepest regret. He leaves to become the president of ACPO, a bigger stage to be sure, and one strewn with its own political minefields. For those at least, he's well prepared.
Liz McKean, well, a little earlier, Sir Hugh spoke to me from our Belfast studio. I put it to him that despite his success in gaining the trust of much of the nationalist community, the threat from dissidents is worse now than at any time since he took over.
Yes, indeed, and of course the main success, I think, or one of the great success stories for policing in Northern Ireland is we are now a truly representative police service. About 28% of my organisation currently drawn from the Catholic community, and about 8,000 people applying for every 440 jobs, nearly half of whom would be Catholic. So that's a great success story. You're right to touch on the distant threat. We have been saying, I have been saying, for the last 2 years, the threat is increasing. And I do think the end game for policing, the distant Republican threat in Northern Ireland is going to be a very difficult one. But this organisation is absolutely up for the fight, and we will, without doubt, without question, we will win it with the community support we're now getting.
But the police themselves are in more danger than ever before, and you obviously had the very sad death of PC Stephen Carroll earlier in the year. Surely that danger to police officers must be a great regret.
Well, it's a deep concern, and I work tirelessly with my senior team to keep our officers as safe as we possibly can. But what I said at Stevie Carroll's funeral rings very true today. Every single day, against a very unique and difficult backdrop, police officers are responding to calls across the province, mindful of the threats, but determined to deliver a very effective service.
Let's just talk about that front line for a moment, because just this weekend dissidents set up a roadblock in County Armagh. Now, the police stayed away in case there was a trap. It sounds like there are still no-go areas for your police service.
No, not indeed. I mean, what of course happened in that case was it was a police patrol that discovered that illegal roadblock. I'm quite used to hearing stories from the past where these roadblocks were set up where there were no police patrols.
But the police backed off, didn't they?
My officers very sensibly stepped back rather than stepped forward. I did not want a firefight. We did not want casualties. And it is now a substantial investigation by my crime operations group. So I'm not surprised by that sort of activity. It's a small group trying to make themselves relevant. What I am clear about is they will not make themselves relevant. The communities won't allow it, and my organisation won't allow it.
In some appalling atrocities, there's been a failure to get convictions. I want to talk to you particularly about the Omar trial. The judge said there was a deliberate and calculated deception in the evidence of police officers. Surely that is an indictment, partly of your leadership, that they got away with that.
Well, not at all. I'd also draw you to your attention to a report from the police ombudsman, which actually substantially contradicts what the judge said in his 17 or 18-page judgment on that very difficult case. I said at the time, and I'll say it again, just for absolute clarity, my investigation, or the investigation under my command, was a clear and determined attempt to reinvestigate a crime with second-hand goods, for want of a better description. Of course, the initial investigation having failed. It was a genuine attempt by a very experienced detective to do his best with what he had, and we did not succeed to very high standard of proof required at a criminal trial, of course.
And still no convictions for Northern Bank. And Northern Bank must be the other big one. You must be very regretful that you haven't actually solved that crime.
Well, I'm regretful about any crime that is not solved. We're very clear in relation to that particular crime, of course, that it was committed by the provisional IRA. We also said that we had changed, with the cooperation of the banknotes. Not one of those banknotes has ever reached circulations.
But the conviction rates are down, not in crime related to the terror threat, but in all areas.
Our clear-up rate last year increased by 2 points to 23%. We do not have the luxury in Northern Ireland of clear-ups attributed to fixed penalty tickets, for example. We do not issue fixed penalty tickets for criminal offences in Northern Ireland. We're not allowed to. So if you actually distill out our figures from the rest of the United Kingdom and make those adjustments, we are actually on a par with our most civil.
Orde has been at the helm of the PSNI for 7 years. During this time, he's helped transform a force once totally unacceptable to the nationalist community. But he's on the move, back to London as president of the Association of Chief Police Officers.
I remember the high moments, the low moments, and I remember the sheer continual pressure that the officer chief holds here, and the very public position that the officer chief holds here, not the individual. The officer chief constable here is still very different to anywhere else in the United Kingdom.
Sir Hugh doesn't talk about failures, but challenges, and there have been quite a few over the years. One was Special Branch, but now he's overhauled the way the force handles its intelligence. He insists this was done before police informer, UVF multiple killer Mark Haddock was unmasked.
Would you still have agents working within paramilitary groups and on the fringes of paramilitarism?
It is completely pointless having nice people as agents. By definition, we employ people who are engaged in organised crime, and that includes terrorism. The issue is control, the issue is how you handle that intelligence, and certainly the issue is around you operate completely within the rule of law, and we do exactly that.
Sir Hugh's also changed the way murder and other serious crime investigations are carried out, but a number which occurred under his watch remain unsolved. The murder of Robert McCartney and that mystery of the alleged IRA spying at Stormont. It's been a difficult year for the outgoing chief, with the murders of Constable Stephen Carroll and 2 soldiers. He says his force is working night and day to crack down on the dissidents, but he rubbishes suggestions the dissidents have bought a new stockpile of weapons.
There is no evidence to suggest any substantial rearming of any dissident Republican group. The issue around decommissioning or recommissioning arms is actually a bit of a flawed one. If people want to bring illegal weapons into this country, they can probably do it. The tragedy of Stephen Carroll was he was killed by an ancient rifle, which of course we have recovered. There is no strategy within dissident Republican terrorists at all.
Fighting the dissident threat will be the job of his successor, Matt Baggott.
The challenges he faces, I think, are different. The end game of terrorism is still with us. The threat is still with us. Finances, I think, are hugely different.
But he has a few words of advice for Mr. Baggott.
My tip is to listen more than to speak, I think. I have learned more in quiet rooms and in quiet places, talking to individuals who really want to make a difference to policing.
Have you made friends for life here?
Yeah, absolutely, and I certainly will come back, but not as a chief. I shall come back as an ordinary member of the public, and I'd like to think that is possible.